Welcome to Next Steps, our weekly podcast where we talk about what we've been doing the previous Sunday. So this is the Tuesday edition. So as we get started, we want to acknowledge and pay respect to the first Tasmanian peoples as traditional owners and custodians of the land we walk on. We also pay respect to elders past, present and emerging, and for their care for country, land and seas over the past thousands of generations. So yeah, welcome along today. This is quite a special one where we're going to talk about our Clean Up Australia initiative that we've done. So we just sent 3 teams out around Hobart City, joining in with other community groups. We had a group here in Mornington, just on the Kangaroo Bay rivulet. We sent a bunch over to Harlequin Castle and up the river over at Lena Valley. I think it's Moona technically. It's right, must be right on the border. And then we had a group doing the coastline in Lindisfarne. When I say group, technically it is a group. We had 2 people join with the others. And do a walk around the Lindisfarne coast. The best part of that group was that they actually had homemade Anzac biscuits and had to eat them all themselves. So that's we'll tell a few stories in a minute about what we got up to on Clean Up Australia. I think we'll have a few photos that we'll patch in along the way. But I've got with me Rodney Dare from Levendale and Dan Hutchison, who now lives up at Newstead.
I just need to point out, it's probably Rodney Dare is another guy. He's a good Dare.
Paul Dare.
He's a good fella. But we actually got Paul Dare with us.
Paul Dare?
Yeah.
Who's Rodney Dare?
Well, he's actually a member of our church at Lena Valley. That's
wow. Okay. My best friend's brother at school, his name is Rodney Dare.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a different one. Sorry, Paul. Paul, big thumbs up. Okay, that thumbs up means forgiveness in this circle.
There you go.
So, and then Matt Garvin. So Dan Hutchison's here. He's moved up to Launceston, so it'll be interesting to see
Good to be back.
what he got up to on Sunday.
Oh.
Yeah, anyway, we'll find out. We're all sitting in one room, so if we look around weird around the camera, it's because we're forgetting that we're not supposed to talk to each other but to the camera. Right, my first question for you guys is, you've been thinking about the biblical thoughts behind why do we do Clean Up Australia. It's important enough for us to be able to close the doors of the church on a Sunday morning and actually get out in our community. So there must be a good enough reason to be doing this activity. So I was wondering if we can start. What have you been inspired from in the Bible? We'll go to you first, Matt. But what's inspired you from the Bible about Clean Up Australia Day?
Well, it was great having at the end of the time a bit of a devotion time, and as I was processing it, what I was stuck with is that before sin enters the world, right at the very start of the Bible, there is work to do, and I just see if I can pull it up here. Yep, Genesis chapter 2. And the very first thing that God does for people is he says, Genesis 2 verse 15, the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to do 2 things, to work it and to take care of it. And before, often people feel like work is a curse from the devil, but actually we need to understand we were built to work, and the kind of work we were built for is to be planted in a place, to work and take care of the place we're planted in, and that also, in my view, includes taking care of the people in the place, but it doesn't. It doesn't not include taking care of the actual place. And right there at the very start of the Bible, there's this call and a responsibility we have to the place God has us and to the physical environment that God has us in. And so I don't think you can have a full understanding of the Bible or even to call yourself a genuine follower of Jesus Christ and not have an understanding that there is a responsibility we have for the garden we're placed in to work it and take care of it. So that there's other stuff there, but that's kind of for me the headline framework, and that's why it's important to come back and to ground ourselves. It's easy to get so self-focused that you walk past so much mess and chaos, and I think Clean Up Australia it's a helpful grounding thing. It's also, for me, the other thing that's part of that is there's something about being friends with people from outside the church and working alongside people from outside the church that is really important. And also for our different congregations working together. It was great to be with the Nepalese congregation, the Lena Valley congregation, and the Mornington congregation, all at Lena Valley yesterday. It was just good.
Yeah.
So it was good for our church life as well as everything else. So yeah, it's not normal to cancel Sunday morning, but I think it's for all those reasons. I think it's doing it once a year is an expression of our faith that is important in my view.
Great. Paul, how about for you?
Oh, I was just listening to Dan. There's two Dans. I was actually listening to Matt then speaking. Yeah, it's interesting. I have this verse which is, hang on, I'll just get this right. It's Matthew 25:35 to 31 to 36. No, 35 to 37 or something. 35:36. I'll get it right in a minute. Matthew 25:35 36, which talks about feeding. I was hungry and you fed me, and that was the verse that I was using to sort of justify. It's the wrong word, but to accept that way we do Clean Up Australia Day. And then I just heard Matt speaking. And I thought, wow, why do we do Australia Day? And it's just might be controversial. The language we use is we shut up church. No, we didn't. We just did church in a different place. But even our language we use, I sometimes really makes me stop and think. So we are so accustomed as individuals, church has to be in a building on a Sunday, but church is where two or three are gathered in God's name, and that's what we did on Sunday, and it's such a great expression of church because it's outside environment, and Dan, old Dan, who's now the younger Dan, it would also say, when he does his bushworks, Blue Gum Pilgrimage, it's just being outside in God's creation. That's church as well. So did we actually not do church yesterday? And I'd argue not. We still did church, it was just in a different environment. But I just love the fact that we can get out there and walk alongside and be the light and show the light to other people as well in the community. So there's so many reasons to do Clean Up Australia Day, and I think they're all valid.
Yeah, I completely agree. I the week before we went out, I said it's not a Sunday off. This is your spiritual act of worship. As churches, we're so good at letting people who like music and who worship God through music do that in church. But so many of us worship God by being out in nature and by seeing His creation. I completely agree. So it's just it was an act of worship, both to our neighbours as love and also just being out and enjoying nature. So yeah, that's right. How about for you, Dan? Have you got?
Yeah, well, I think building on what you're all saying, I think going back to Genesis, for me, actually, I just love the picture of God being in the garden with us. That's how we're created to be, walking with Him in the garden. And so I think that's kind of the framework that, like you're saying, I love being in the outdoors. And when I see Clean Up Australia Day, that's us being in God's creation, and He cares for His creation, us in that, as well as what He for us to enjoy. I know there's Psalms as well that reflect His glory through His creation. So to be with other people, cleaning that up and restoring. I mean, I've got a background in mining restoration. I was talking to you this morning about that, and how restoring things to its natural beauty. That's what we get to partake in doing that activity together. And that's probably my framework of why I love being in the outdoors, as well as why Clean Up Australia Day is so important. Being part of that, of being community in doing that activity.
Yeah. I read Job 29 yesterday morning. I found it interesting because Job's probably the first book that was physically written. I know the books are orally a lot older than that, but the first one that was written. And so here Job tells us what it means to live a good, godly life. I can't say Christian life because Christ hadn't been yet, but basically I would say this is a great start on how to live a Christian life. And he's what he was saying was he's saying, I've done all this, I've lived a good Christian life, and still God destroyed me, basically. But the first bit is a good summary of what it means to live as a Christian person. So I'll just read that. This is Job 29, and from verse 11. I'll go from verse 12. I rescued the poor who cried for help, and the fatherless who had none to assist them. The one who was dying blessed me. I made the widow's heart sing. I put on righteousness as my clothing. Justice was my robe and my turban. I was eyes to the blind and feet to the lame. I was a father to the needy. I took up the case of the stranger. I broke the fangs of the wicked and snatched the victims from their teeth. I thought, I will die in my own house, my days as numerous as the grains of sand. I'll stop there, it keeps going. It changes tack there. But I love that summary of what it means to be a godly person, someone who follows God, just to care for the people and the places where we live. I agree. Yeah, so I think Clean Up Australia Day. So a couple of things was, let's find a place that really needs help, that really needs some work. Let's work together with people from our community, not just ourselves. The last thing I wanted to do is take our indoor Christian ghetto and put that somewhere in another place. I wanted to mix it up. And Matt said it already. How nice was it to mix our different congregations so they can get to know each other a bit. Yeah. Dan, you started this whole thing, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
What was your motivation right at the start?
Yeah, building on what we just shared there about being God's creation. I actually remember one Sunday when I lived in Wynyard and driving past a group in our street cleaning up the neighbourhood, which we were. I'm talking. Well, it's not really a street; it's a road. It was a rural road, so the neighbours were all out cleaning up the sides of the road, and we were just driving past to go to church. And I remember feeling in that moment like, why aren't I out there helping them, joining them? And so I think for me, always then, whenever I would always feel guilty, kind of coming up to Clean Up Australia Day and feel like, the community is out caring for God's creation and we're meeting in. And I think I love what we've been talking here about, the language of why aren't we out worshipping with God out there amongst the community and being a light. So that probably was the inspiration of why I wanted to see if we could do this, if we could move church to outdoors and serve the community with the community instead of doing our own thing on a Sunday morning and kind of separating ourselves from it. So I guess that's what started it, and then it's been encouraging even through COVID to see what happened on Sunday. It was very encouraging. Yeah,
great. Yeah, so one thing we found was there's not a lot of people out doing Clean Up Australia Day. Matt, you met the guy who's been doing it for 22 years, I think.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Michael. And in fact, I think I might be able to just drop in the conversation I had with Michael into this so people can meet him too and hear it from his voice. And this is him.
We're here at the base here, and we're here at Lena Valley, and I'm here with Michael, who has been organising this for about 20 years, eh?
Wow. 22 years.
22 years. Why is this important?
This is part of a 9.5 kilometre catchment, the Newtown rivulet.
Yeah.
And this is the most urban part of the catchment.
Yeah.
And it's had a lot of neglect, and I just figure it needs heaps of TLC, and that's why we're here today.
Now, mate, we ran out of vests.
We did.
So we had a pretty good roll-up.
I've toted up about 30 people, which is just awesome. Fantastic. And the other nice bonus is the Nepalese component of the group.
It's nice, isn't it?
It's brilliant.
Yeah. Now, you've been doing, like I said, you've been doing this for a while. Why have you been committed for 20 years to this?
Okay, so I've been brought up in Lena Valley.
Yeah.
And outside the back fence, where I live with my parents, was a creek. And I thought everybody had a creek over their back fence.
Yeah.
So over a period of a long time,
yeah,
I suddenly appreciated what that really meant.
Yeah.
And so I'm putting back for what I've taken out.
Oh, mate, that's fantastic. Well, and I don't know if you can see over here, we've got a good bunch of the crew sort of turning back with bags. And we actually, one of the challenges here, we have a few sharps kind of issues because there's a drug rehabilitation place over there, but we found a couple of sharps containers. That is part of the challenge of a place like this, isn't it?
What's part of modern society?
Yeah.
It's just being aware, generally.
Yeah, yeah.
Not just of one thing, but being aware. And what I mean by that is this is habitat.
Yeah.
This is not a drain. This
Absolutely.
is real.
Yeah.
And so then there's these other elements, like modern society, sharp,
Yeah.
and we've just got to take it all in our stride.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, I guess there'll be people watching from around the state, around the country. I guess what message would you have for them?
Oh, put me on the spot, why don't you? Just appreciate what you've got and look after it. That's all I'd say. And treasure it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Michael.
Thank
Really
you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
As you can hear, what he's saying is that last time the numbers weren't as high. In fact, what he told me privately was last year he turned up by himself, and he sat there expecting people to turn up, and nobody turned up. So it was really encouraging for him this year to run out of vests and gloves, and because we overwhelmed him with numbers, which is how it should be. Yeah, it's interesting that I don't think Clean Up Australia Day received the coverage through the news media and stuff that it has in the past, but there's still faithful people who turn up and have been turning up year in, year out, and it's the kind of thing that I think we need to be right in with.
One beautiful story is when I talked to the lady who was organising the Lindisfarne coastline. She said, look, we don't want too many people because since we've done Clean Up Australia Day, we actually love doing it so much together that once a month we do it. So we do it every month. So there's only 1 month's worth of rubbish out there. So she said, don't send too many people because there just won't be the rubbish.
Right.
Which wasn't the case down at the Rivulet down here. So there was plenty of rubbish. I think they found a washing machine, a shopping trolley that's so embedded in the soil that a couple of big blokes couldn't pull it out. So that's still there. But what else did they find? Just a...
I heard they found a swimming pool.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a swimming pool thrown over the back fence. So if that was your pool, no, sorry. Yeah, so that's where we got it to. The one thing that I want to encourage next year is there are a bunch of people in our congregations who going for a walk for an hour or bending over to pick up rubbish is too much physically for them, and I want to get them better. Like I want to create a better place for them. So yesterday we had a prayer time up at Lena Valley, and it was beautiful. But people felt a little bit guilty walking in as though I'm not cleaning up. I came here instead. And like a couple of people apologised as they walked in. So I really want to change that because I think we can really, facilitate that. So either have jobs for some of the more frail to do out and about, or we just really focus on this prayer time and really pray for our city, pray for Hobart. So so I'd like to boost that next time.
I thought actually when the photos came out with Henny and the gut lovers there, it was a real highlight seeing that they'd gone to pray and to do what they could for the day. So I actually thought that was quite encouraging. Yeah.
Maybe one option is you could go up to say the Domain, look over Hobart and pray for Hobart during that. That would be outdoors enjoying God's creation as well.
I like that. That's a great idea.
So it looks like we're already planning next year.
Well, that was one question I had. I'd love to hear feedback from the church. So if you want to pop in the comments or send me an email, I'd love to hear what you think. The general feel was I was quite nervous leading up. I didn't know how many people were going to get involved, and I was hoping that people didn't just see it as a Sunday off, but just a different way of worshipping. So the actual, now that we're past Clean Up Australia Day, I've really noticed that there were a substantial number of people involved, and really into it. So I'd like to know what people think. Should we as a church be doing this? Should we be outside of our building on that Sunday morning, or do we tack it on in the afternoon? So I'd love to hear some thoughts. Yeah, what do you guys think? Do you have a view, an opinion? Is this worth shutting down the doors?
I actually think it should be a special Sunday, and maybe we have, like there was talk of it, you come back for lunch, but actually organise lunch and meet somewhere for lunch and have a really family day of it.
Yeah, the lunch bit really didn't work. I think there was only a couple of people who stuck around for the lunch bit.
Yeah.
So we'd have to think if that's worth it or make a big go of it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a warm day.
No. It wasn't cold by Tassie standards though.
No, that's right.
It was actually quite pleasant. And so I think we lean into it, is my sense. I'll be interested to hear from the church family, but I think everyone who turned up seemed very positive. and although it's an unusual thing to do, I think we want to be an unusual church. Like, we don't want to be a usual church. We want to be responding to what the actual needs are, not responding to what history tells us church should be doing.
And we don't want to just be a church that's a consumer church where we just sit and receive.
Yeah.
We don't want to just do the things
Amen.
that we like and that we want to do. Is this right to do? I think it's the main question, isn't it? Is this a good thing for us to do as a church body, for our community?
Yeah.
Is this the right thing to do? It's not necessarily what I want, but what's right for us. So that's really the question we have to work through, is to be able to put self aside, what's right for us as a church.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it's a bit of a, let's work out how to do it next year again. It's a beautiful time of year. I really like your idea, Paul, about the being outdoors in the domain.
Yeah.
For prayer time. It was precious praying for our city. Yeah, we I did this north, south, east, west prayer where you just face in a direction and who does God place on your heart, or what does God place on your heart from that quarter. Yeah, and just pray around the city. But yeah, so thanks to everyone who was involved. I think we can finish up there, but really thankful for everyone who was involved. Good on you for getting your hands dirty.
And I'm looking forward to hearing from Newstead Baptist as they do it next year, Dan.
Yeah, yes.
You have to gently break it to them.
Only 2 months in, so yeah, couldn't quite jump into it yet. But yeah, we'll work out how we can engage with the day as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we have any questions for Dan about Newstead, or save that for another interview? I think that's worth a whole interview, isn't it?
Yeah. We probably need to find a way to do more. But overall, it's going okay up there.
Yep. No, really enjoying it. And actually, by Sunday, I didn't have any preaching. We had Russell from Perth Baptist preaching, because the last couple of years they haven't had a pastor to fill that role, so we had different people's voices, which has been great. And part of my rhythm there is to have 3 weeks on and one off, and so it's still a different pace from coming from once a month here or now and then to doing 3 in a row. So I've enjoyed that and really enjoyed doing the series at the moment on IM, and got a new website, so if anyone wants to go check that out, and hopefully soon I'll get up a Facebook page. So
Wow, it's all starting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good. Well, good to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Yeah, we're heading off. Us guys we're a bit bloke heavy today. We're heading off to speaking of bloke heavy, a Baptist ministers 24 hours retreat, and
I think there's at least a couple of women who get to be part of it.
Yeah, that's right.
But it is something as Baptist churches we're working on.
It's almost as bad as a physics convention, so we need to work on it. Right, thanks guys. Cool. See ya.